What's up, guys? Platinum Waiter here. Today I played to the Monterrey Regional Championships. I thought that it was a pretty good deck. Thinking about it now, it does have a few tougher matchups that could prevent it from becoming, for example, Tier 1, but I do feel like it's fixable. I almost made day 2. I feel like I feel like if I tightened up my play a little bit more, I would have been able to make day 2. One of my ties was from throwing. One or two of my losses were from throwing, and then another one was from variance. So I think there's definitely work to be done. I really wish I made a run. Gardevoir had a really great showing. This deck bodies Gardevoir. Like, it's not even close. The Jellicent version's a little tougher, but in any case, we can go into that. This is gonna be kind of like a mini masterclass. I'm just gonna like pull behind the curtain, kind of go over the list, the logic behind the list, and then go over like the top matchups. We got the Hydreigon EX as the main attacker. Crashing Headbutt's really good. 200 discard top 3. Sometimes you just discard your opponent's win con, especially late game when their deck's super thin. Over the weekend, there were times where I just straight up won because I discarded like my opponent's boss or superior energy retrieval off of Crashing Headbutt. It's a really nice way to also clean up after hitting them with Obsidian. So Obsidian allows you to do 130 to active and 130 to 2 bench Pokemon. Now this attack might be a little bit worse these days because people might start teching in Shaman to counter Terror Box. However, even still, you can just kind of become a Crashing Headbutt deck and just kind of run out your opponent's resources that way. Also, this deck is, I think, powerful enough where you can afford to knock out the Shaman and then follow it up with Obsidian. So Obsidian has many uses, some of which include just straight up winning against evolution deck. Sometimes you just Obsidian twice and you just win, especially after using Itchy Pollen, having their board be undeveloped. Even if they do get one attacker up, you can just Obsidian and then Crashing Headbutt their attacker. So you Obsidian, knock out their Prevos, and then just Crashing Headbutt the turn after an Iono, and then they're just left with nothing, and then you just win. Obsidian is also how you finish the game in certain matchups, and this is like this deck's way of doing the like 4-price swing turn, versus like the 2-price deck. That's that. So that's a 3-2-2 line. The Dino, you just want to run the 70 HP one. The 80 HP one is okay. It's like nice versus Dragapult. They can't just Halucha KO it, but I think it's a little too cute. I think you just want to prioritize being able to Poffin for the Dino. Zweilous is really good. The Find a Friend, you can search your deck for 2 Pokemon put in your hand. It's kind of like a nice anti-Badoo tech. So if you're getting Itchy Pollens, right, and especially if your opponent has a poor start and they're just trying to use Itchy Pollen to stall, you can use Find a Friend to set up your own board, and then, if their setup is pretty weak, then you can just find a friend for the Pokemon you need. You can find a friend for like Hydreigon, Pidgeot, or Hydreigon, or something, or like Hydreigon, Pheasantipity. I mean, it depends on your board, depends on the matchup, depends on whether or not like your opponent can knock something out right away. But Find a Friend is really good. This is a really good stage 1. The supporting Pokemon here is Pidgeot. We have the quick search ability to search your deck for a card, any card, and put in your hand. This is the glue of the deck. I would prioritize setting this up over Hydreigon. 100%. Sometimes I don't even Poffin for like a Dino turn 1 if I don't have the option to, because Pidgeot is just that important. And this deck is a really big comeback deck. So even if your Dino gets 1 KO'd, or sorry, even if your board gets wiped from Dinos early game, if you have Pidgeot, this deck has enough tricks to stall the game and set up a Hydreigon late game so that you can take control of the game and come back. So for that, we got a 2-1-2 Pidgeotto line. I would love this to be 2-2-2, especially against Badoo decks, but I'm really trying to fit in a lot of text here, so unfortunately some space had to be cut. As for the supporting Pokemon, the first one that was actually very surprisingly good was Fanrotom. Fanrotom is usually unassuming. Usually you don't see these in these setup decks, but I think that it's really good. So the fan call ability allows you to search for, 3 colors Pokemon with 100 HP or less and put them in your hand. And so before, I had Badoo in the deck, but I thought that I couldn't really get much value from it because the Badoo's most powerful early game. Like, you can sometimes use a mid game, block your opponent and stall for a little bit to kind of set up. If I was using an early game, then I didn't really have any follow up play, right? Because I don't have the built in draw engine like Dracloak does, right? And that's the power of the Dragapult deck, because you can essentially just Itchy Pawn for free. And, you can run it in Gardevoir. You can run Badoo in Gardevoir because Gardevoir runs a lot of draw supporters. I do not. And so in those kinds of decks, right, decks with high supporter counts or built-in draw on stage 1, Badoo is a lot better. But as you can see, the Hydreigon line does not have that. And so in order to fully utilize Badoo and be able to use it early game, what you can do is you can fan call. So you can Poffin or Artisan or Nestball, or just start with it. You can fan call for 2 Pidgeys and a Pidgeotto. And then even if you just have an Arven or an Ultra Ball in hand, after 2 turns of Itchy Pollen, you can just evolve manually into Pidgeot, and from there, I just feel like I just win, right? Because if I Pidgeot, I'm making the best play I can every turn. I can literally search for any card, and this deck has a lot of tricks up its. This card was broken. I love this card. Honestly, originally put it in the list as a Raging Bolt tech just to like be able to assault landing and like soften stuff up, which you can use this for. This is a really good card for that. You can soften things up so that Obsidian can KO anything with more than 200 HP, for example. And then, for example, against stuff like Pikachu EX, you can like soften it up with Assault Landing, and then Obsidians knock it out if they don't have like a Bravery Charm or something attached to it. And then sometimes in select cases, you can use it to attack for 70. That's pretty rare. Most of the time, you either want to be using Cleffa or Badoo early on, not Fan Rotom, but it's always an option. It's also a nice cheap way to just hit 70. I have used Fan Rotom as a win con, and it's funny because I literally just put this in like the day before. So shout out to Vinny. Next support Pokemon we're going to go over is Cleffa. So Cleffa is definitely very necessary in the list. Because we run so many techs, our deck's somewhat clunky, right? But also, if we just start like Lone Arven, no other supporters in the deck, we need a way to be able to kind of refill our hand and make sure that we can play the game, and Cleffa is instrumental in doing that. Grasping Draw allows us to draw until we have 7 cards in hand. Yeah, it has 30 HP, but it's also free retreat, nice pivot. It's a really good card. I think the skill in this deck is knowing when to Grasping Draw versus when to Itchy Pollen. The early game determines a lot of what you do. Even if your opponent gets a hot, fast start, sometimes you can just stall enough where you can set up a Hydreigon and then eventually build up to an Obsidian. And then once you announce Obsidian, most of the time, you're probably winning. Next, we got Badoo. Itchy Pollen's really good for making sure your opponent just can't play the game. You can use this to underdevelop your opponent's board against Evolution deck. And you can use the Itchy Pollen tent to set up for things. So a lot of the times, I can like Itchy Pollen something like a Fez or a TMS Ogerpon. I think those are like the main ones. I guess Latias too. You can Itchy Pollen those, set those up for Crashing Headbutt KO, while also item locking your opponent. So this is really good both mid and late game. So when your opponent's out of resources and it's just like, oh, I just need to play one more item. Maybe I need a Pokemon from my deck with Ultra Ball. And then you're just like, nope, Iono Itchy Pollen, have fun. And most of the time they don't. And then from there, the tempo goes back in your favor, and then you can just deal with your opponent's threats. I think without this, certain matchups would be a lot worse. So this one has to stay in the list, in my opinion. Next, we got Shaman. Shaman's really good. Baby Raging Bolt. It's nice against Screamtail. Nice against Mew EX. Mew EX can copy Obsidian, but yeah, this makes it so that Mew EX isn't a win con. I teched very heavily for Gardevoir. Because what they can do is if your board is just like 1 Hydreigon, 2 bench sitters and stuff, they can Mew copy Obsidian for 4 prizes. So this prevents that play. Oh yeah, it's also good against Terrabox. It makes the Terrabox matchup extremely favored. We have Lily's Clefairy EX. This is here for the Dragapult matchup. If they know that you play this, then they start Itchy Pollening, so like they assemble Exodia on the field. The way the deck is built, I think that it's definitely possible to get around Itchy Pollen. With the Tord list, though, against that specific deck with Rare Candy, I feel like this list is probably a little worse. Yeah, Rare Canyon to Dusknoir, Rare Canyon to Dragapult is kind of insane. I think that might be a little too fast for Lilith's Clefairy to be effective, but that was the original thought behind that. Furthermore, this card is instrumental in the Raging Bolt matchup, how you can counter Teal Mask Ogerpon. Sometimes you can just drop Lilith's Clefairy, EX, and Full Moon Rondo, take the first 2 prizes, and allows you to put pressure even without any Dino on the board. Then finally we got the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon EX. This is how you auto-win the Goldengo matchup. I guess Ceruledge EX is like probably the worst for you, for Hydreigon, but against literally every other Goldengo variant, this makes it makes the deck an auto win, like if you don't prize Ogerpon fighting, like genuinely. For the supporters, we got 4 Arven. This is your setup card. You don't want to go less than 4. This deck is already teched out enough as is, and you need to be able to play the game. So this is how you can play the game. Next we got 2 Iono. Yeah, this deck, you just need to slow your opponent down. It's honestly used more for disruption rather than a draw. An early game, I actually don't like using this because I only have 2 of them. Like, yeah, I have Palpad, but like usually mid or late game, I want to be Ionoing my opponent down and just hoping that they whiff, hope that they miss a beat, and that's usually all I need. As for the next supporters, we got 2 Boss's Orders. I originally had 1, but after testing the Goldengo matchup and the Gardevoir matchup, Vinny and I agreed that 2 Boss's Order was pretty necessary, especially in the Goldengo matchup. So against Goldengo, what you want to do is you just want to highly prioritize targeting down Togekiss if they run it, and then the Gimme Ghouls. And the reason why is because one of the best counters is to Cornerstone is the baby Goldengo. However, for it to do a lot of damage, it needs to evolve. And so if you can target down the Gimme Ghouls, they hit you for 120, then you're like, knockout? You just knock out the Goldengo, then they can either stretch it for it back, hit you for another 120, but if they don't have those Gimme Ghouls out, then they can't just stretch her and put it back, right? Other supporters, we got 1 Professor Turos. This is really good for fixing your board, get rid of liabilities in play, easy to knock out Pokemon that are about to get knocked out. Next we got Crispin. So this is your energy acceleration. I only run 1. 2 would be nice, but we only run 7 energy. I mean, it could be okay. It'd be nice to not have to Palpad Crispin back. So I could see this going up to 2, but honestly, I honestly don't know what I cut. If you already have an energy on a Hydreigon, you can Crispin and counter gain for an Obsidian in 1 turn. This does require an attachment to a Dino, but it is a way that you can threaten it. And just the fact that the threat is there makes your opponent play different. You can also use this to accelerate Tickle Fairy or to Cornerstone. And then you can also reuse it too with Palpads. Next we got Hilda. Hilda's really good. Allows you to get like for example, Hydreigon and Energy. That's what I'm usually using it for. Either that or as Zweilous and Energy. This is a nice way to gain 2 cards off of Quick Search. So going into the items, we got 3 Buddy Poffin, 3 Ultra Ball, and 2 Nest Ball. It's pretty standard. Next we got 2 Rare Candies. I would like 3. I'm running 2 Stage 2s, but I'm also running a pretty heavy Stage 1 list. So, and usually you're setting up behind Cleffa or setting up behind Bidoof anyway, so it's okay to manually evolve through those Stage 1s. What else do we got? We got our recovery. We got 1 Super Rod, 1 Night Stretcher. We have a 1-1 split because it's just really good to get a card and put it back into your hand. You don't need to search for it, and I think that's more valuable than putting 3 cards back in. Next we got Counter Catcher. Counter Catcher is really good. You're usually behind anyway, so being able to have a boss effect while also being able to Iono, or a boss effect while also being able to Crispin, for example, or Turo, is really powerful. Usually you want to save this. It's a really powerful card. Next we got Palpad. I use this almost every game. To reuse Crispin, to reuse Boss, to reuse Iono. And finally we got Energy Search. This is here so that you can Arven for a TM Evo play. That's the items. So next we'll get into the tools. So first we got Counter Gain. This allows you to attack for 1 energy with Crashing Headbutt. It's really good for that. Allows you to attack for 3 energy for Obsidian. Really good for that. Allows Clefairy to attack for 1 Psychic Energy. It's also excellent for that. Sometimes you can even counter gain a Pidgeot and attack for 1 energy. Next we have the Hero's Cape. It's our A spec. This card is insane. Not many decks are running Tool Scrapper. Only Dragapult and sometimes Raging Bolt plays Jamming Tower, but even then, it doesn't even matter. Plus 100 HP is insane. A 430 HP Hydreigon that's Obsidian, that is hitting you with Obsidian, is quite daunting. And I have gotten that a few times over the weekend. Yeah, it's just really good. You can protect your Pidgeot, give it 380 HP. Where you put your Hero Escape is very critical. Sometimes it's the difference between winning and losing. Next we have TM Evolution. I'm not going to lie, I don't usually use this card. This could be cut for a Brox, but it's just so good to have the potential to evolve into Pidgeotto, and then TM Evo directly into Pidgeot. And then we have the TM Turbo Energize. So we got the Turbo Energize and Cornerstone package in this deck. That's how you auto Goldengo, and it just puts a lot of pressure on. Finally, we got the Air Balloon. It's a good way to get into either Clef or Bidoof turn 1 off of Arven. And then to round out the list, we have Artisan. So Artisan is here. Just adds consistency. It's a nice stadium bump for Jamming Tower too. And then finally, we have Festival Grounds. I love this card. This makes Guardy very favored. I found out that most of the time, Guardy's best play is to Monkey Door Confuse you. And as you can see, Hydreigon has 3 retreat, so I can't just air balloon. So my answer to that was to run Festival Grounds. So each Pokemon that has any energy attached recovers, this is the key, recovers special conditions and can't be affected by special conditions. So that means if it sticks, they can't confuse you. And it already heals any pre-existing special conditions. We have 7 energies, just 2 dark, 2 metal, 2 psychic, and 1 fighting. Worked well for me. Luminous sucks. You want to be able to Crispin. I think we can go into like the matchups. Let me see if I can like set that up. You just start with Bidoof, if you can. Poffin for like Fan Rotom plus Bidoof or Cleffa. Just depends on your hand. You don't necessarily need Dino turn 1. It's a slower matchup. Although against Tor's version with the Rare Candy, how that matchup goes, I'd imagine that it's a lot worse for us. You definitely need to Bidoof in that matchup. Against Charizard, you just go after the Zards because you have Clefairy to deal with Dragapults. Look to punish an aggressive Dragapult with Clefairy. If you do that, especially if they don't run Rare Candy, they're just too far behind. Obviously here, you want to prioritize Pidgeot. If you ever get out an Obsidian, these decks don't play Shaman, so you can just wipe their board. Go after Dusknoir line if you can. That's what allows them to make their crazy play. So that's the Dragapult matchup. I think you're favored, or 50-50 at worst. Although towards list, I don't know. We'll see. Next, we're against Goldengo. Really depends. Prioritize Cornerstone plus Pidgeot. Don't put down too many liabilities. Your win con is to wall with Cornerstone. It's okay to drop things not Cornerstone, but you need to be judicious about it. I literally just go like Poffin for Fan Rotom for double Pidgeotto, and if I can, just Turbo Energize and just pass. This order depends on what Goldengo variant you're against. In order of priority to boss, the Togekiss line, higher priority than Gimmighoul, and that's higher priority than Monkey. Monkey can't even hit you. Yeah, they can confuse you, but then you have Festival Grounds. It's kind of funny. And by Togekiss line, I also mean just like counters / Cornerstone counters. Yeah, you just want to set up Cornerstone ASAP. Remember, you have Crispin, you have Turbo Energize. They decide to go after the Pidgeot line. That's fine. It's another 140 on their field. Sometimes you just pass. If you hit a Goldengo for 140 and then they establish Monkey, just pass. You don't need to do damage. They can't do anything to you. Wait until you have boss, knock out Monkey, and then you can start hitting again. The Raging Bolt matchup. So for this matchup, try to Bidoof early if you can. Can prize race if your hand is good enough. Clefairy plus Psychic plus Gain into Clefairy plus Crispin. Then you need Rod or Stretcher. Depending on if you have like Palpat in hand, then you can like Rods or Stretcher again. So that's like your prize race line. Try to set up Obsidian. If you can do that, you probably win. So keep in mind Steel Mask Ogerpon. Dark plus counter gain is no KO with min energy. What else? 2 energy plus cape is no KO with min energy. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes you can just swing with a Hydreigon. I guess you can use Badoo and Fan Rotom to soften up Raging Bolt, EX, and Teal Mask. Ogerpon. Often you win by Iono late game, plus Counter Catcher, Noctowl. Next is Gardevoir. You body this list. So Jellicin's definitely the worst because it has item lock, but this just straight up wins. Festival Grounds for the monkey confusion turn. And then like you just crisp an Obsidian, then they just lose. This matchup's really good, it's really favored. I think I just body Gardevoir. I would love to sit across a Gardevoir. Against Jellicent, you just try to set up under item lock. Save your boss for when you really need to use items, and then once you establish a Hydreigon, it's kind of wraps, especially with Festival Grounds. And then against Zard, honestly, the matchup is just Itchy Pollen into Obsidian, and then you just win. You can also, so Obsidian knock out the Charmeleons into Crashing Headbutt, KO Zard. I mean, and then at that point, like, what do? They need too many cards to even stay in the game. Like, they just lose. Definitely just prioritize Badoo. But sometimes you just need a Cleffa. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, there's not really much else to say about the bottom two. I mean, they're pretty straightforward. The rest are just like, I don't know, they're all right. But yeah, that's the deck. That is Hydreigon. I think since this one is a longer explanation, I'll leave the games out of this one. Don't worry, I'll be posting more Hydreigon content. So yeah, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.